So yesterday we took a look around the Western Caribbean. So today let's look at something almost complete opposite of that and check out Mongolia. Now right off the bat, something that's kind of strange about just the borders of Mongolia here is you've got China, Mongolia, Russia, and Kazakhstan almost getting their own little four corners here. Except you've got the China and Russia border just kind of taking over this little passageway. Now, Mongolia is another country that you very rarely hear anything about. But there was a time about 800 years ago when Mongolia took up almost the entirety of Central Asia here. You know, back when Genghis Khan was trying to rule the whole world with the Mongolian Empire, it was a much more prominent and talked about place than it is now. And now it seems to just be a very quiet little corner of the world that, like I said, you rarely ever hear about. So let's take a look at what the place actually looks like. So right around here, the whole northern China and the southern half of Mongolia is all a pretty massive desert, while the northern half is a lot more just green hills. So let's just drop in and see what some of these parts look like. I mean, it's kind of funny to think that the place that 800 years ago was trying to take over the whole world now is just a big, giant field of grass and dirt. Let's look more on the northern end. Okay, so a lot of the same, just really wide open fields with fairly small mountains off in the distance. It seems like almost all of the population in Mongolia sits right here in the one major city. And I mean, there's only like 3 million people in the entire country. And with it being like the 18th largest country in the world, like it's not quite the population density of Greenland, but it still seems like a very private place. Especially when you consider, so this major city here is right in the center of the entire country, and then it's surrounded by just wide open fields of nothing. I mean, just look at the street view. There's single roads going off in every direction, but not a whole lot. And anytime you drop into these roads, it's just open fields for miles. So you can really tell that a big part of the entire landscape is for a lot of sheep herding, and for horses. There's actually even like wild horses that live out here too. And if you were to travel through any country on horseback, there's probably no better place in the world than Mongolia. But man, I feel like it would be kind of easy to get lost here because every place is just, like I said, big open fields of green with small mountains in between it. So this actually isn't too far away from the places we looked at a couple days ago around Kyrgyzstan. So a lot of it seems like similar landscape, but a lot greener. Man, just look at the dedication of this Google car, or whatever this thing is right here. You can see the shadow of the camera on top of the car. And it's just driving through like these big mud puddles. Man, maybe I should just get a job as one of the Google car drivers. And here we have some more big open green fields. And some more big open green fields. This reminds me of the old Windows XP desktop, but I actually think it looks really cool where there's just no mountains in sight here. Like you could just go in one direction seemingly forever and you'd never run into anything. Okay, we found something. I'm not entirely sure what this is supposed to be, but it's clearly do a lot of farming out here. Let's see what a smaller town around here actually looks like. Wow, dang, this actually looks a lot more primitive than I was expecting. I mean, compared to the major city, this place looks a lot more run down. Other than the very modern cars that seem very out of place in a town like this. Like, I have to wonder just how old this place really is. Man, and then just look at this house in the middle of all this. Nothing seems to make any sense in this little place. But let's see. So they've got just lots of rows of very oddly shaped properties and not very organized streets. And then there's a few businesses. A restaurant just called King, because I guess they didn't want to rip off Burger King. Then there's just a little hospital over here. I wonder how good this hotel is. I mean, it doesn't seem terrible. Definitely not the best place I've ever seen. I mean, there's a guest house right here that you can book for $7 a night. I think that's cheaper than my rent. Oh, $8 with taxes and fees, though. Man, is this just somebody's house that they rent out rooms or something? And then over here, there's a monastery. Whoa, dang. Now we're getting historical. Man, I feel like I'm looking at a scene out of Age of Empires. Like, I used to play Age of Empires 2, like, all the time, and so you definitely get a good view of a lot of the old empires. Man, some of these buildings are probably close to 1,000 years old. Alright, let's see what's over here. What's with all these extra pictures? Oh, just more fields, just with a little bit of snow this time. Hey, we got another small town over here. Wow, so now this town looks way different from the other small town and the big city. It's like every little town is from a different country, or maybe just a different time period. But yeah, so we have the main capital city, which is like, looks very modern, and then there was the very run-down, old-fashioned tiny town, and then there's this one, which looks more like a Russian town. But the one thing they all have in common is that they're all surrounded by miles of open fields. Man, it's always fun when people take a bunch of pictures from, like, inside of their hotel. Because then you can just be like, I wonder what it looks like from here. You know, I've never really even looked into what tourism into Mongolia is like. I imagine it's one of those where it's like, it's really expensive to get there, but then once you're there, you can stay for a long time because it's pretty cheap. But those little pictures inside the hotel room are the only pictures for a while, it seems. Man, well, if anybody is looking to run out into the wilderness and just start building up your own little shack just to live independently, there's obviously a lot of places out there to pick from where you will probably never be found if you don't want to be. You know, I think a lot of people would consider this place pretty boring to look at, but I honestly think it's really interesting that a place like this is out there. I don't know, when you're around so many massive mountains all the time, sometimes you just get tired of it, and it'd be really cool to just travel straight through all of this. See, I don't usually like to look at big major cities that are very established. When you jump into it, most big cities just, they're kind of all the same. I mean, you might find interesting and unique things, but for the most part, it's just, you know, lots of businesses, apartments, and traffic. Not to mention, there's so many street views around that you're like, well, where do I even start? What cool stuff can I find around here? I guess this looks pretty awesome. There's some pretty massive national monuments. Right in the center of town. Oh dang, they've got a national amusement park. I wonder what's over here. Huh, so it is actually like a little roller coaster and ride park. They've even got a big roller coaster over here too. Just in the middle of the city. See, that's so unusual for us because usually land is so hard to come by around major cities that you only ever see big amusement parks like kind of on the outskirts of town. But this one seems like it's just right in the center. Man, the colors on that gas station make me think that it's a North Korean gas station. Whoa, okay, so it looks like, at first glance, I thought that this was all just mountain and rocky, but I think we found the poorer side of the city over here. So I guess this is just what Mongolian Suburbs looks like. I guess we found where all the people are living. Because, I mean, when you've got 3 million people in the country, and the majority of them are all in one city, then I could see how it would get pretty dense. But you know, this might sound a little bit crazy, but out of all of the places that I've looked at in all of videos so far, I honestly think that living somewhere out in the middle of nowhere here would be more appealing than just about all of the other places that we've looked at. I mean, disregarding the quality of life of whatever town you end up living in, just the landscape around here just seems the most pleasant. But I think I'll just end it here. You know, it's kind of hard to, like, keep it interesting while I'm making these videos, because, you know, usually I'll just explore, look at street views for, like, hours at a time, but not really say anything. And so it's hard to make this a very viewable experience, which really explains why almost nobody is even watching these videos. But I think it's pretty fun to just explore the world and look around and see what other parts look like. But that's all for today, so thanks for watching.